Chapter 4, Name Your Cow. I could sense the frustration in X's voice. Maybe it would relax him a little bit to discuss the details of the case. Can you fill me in on what's expected of me? All I know is there's a milk crisis covering 14 star systems. It's simple, really. The cows are drying up, and we don't know why. Everything we've done to try to alleviate the situation has failed utterly. X took a sip from his coffee mug and asked if I would like some. I just had Centauri cider on Plan A. Note to reader. Centauri cider is so satisfying in every possible respect that it's impossible to desire anything else to drink or eat for at least 12 to 18 hours after imbibing it. Thank goodness for the cider is still flowing. Our whole system might come crashing down if we lost that too. My TPE training suddenly engaged, and I had a thought. Could the makers of Mora Mora have anything to do with what's going on? After all, they would be the prime beneficiaries of a milk shortage. I had that same thought, so I sent an Acme junior inspector to Dora Dora. They just laughed at him and said their product was so good it was irrelevant what the cows were doing or not doing, as the case may be. X looked out at his window at the pasture on the other side of the road. The pasture was empty, but I wondered if he was seeing imaginary cows. I tried to reassure him. Don't worry, the cows will be coming home. We talked for a few more minutes, but I knew what I had to do. Go personally to each of the 14 star systems and do something I haven't done in several hundred years. Solve a case. I re-engaged the SPNV, which is really not an accurate term because there was literally nothing to engage, but for the sake of the reader, let's pretend there is. Hey, maybe activate and reactivate are better terms. Can you activate nothing? Only if nothing is something, which I suppose the SPNV was theoretically. And then conjured up the reverse coordinates and instantly was back on Plan A, where I spent the night at Misadventures. Next morning, I looked over the Syrian freighter schedules and attempted to plot a coherent course of travel that would efficiently and logically take me to each of the 14 star systems. I couldn't do it. I would have to do a lot of hopscotching around, but who knows, maybe I would luck out and solve the case on the first planet I visited. Don't laugh. Things like that have happened before. First star system to visit would be Eta Leporus, which has only one habitable planet called Maximus. I booked a flight on the Syrian freighter Heart the Herald Angels Sing. Here we go. Chapter 5. Dairy is a state of mind. Eta Leporus is about 45 light years distant from Earth. Its only habitable planet, Maximus, is primarily agricultural. Dairy farming is a big part of the economy. And if the dairy business is hurting, Maximus is hurting. I should have no problem getting cooperation in my investigation. No products from Dora Dora are permitted to be sold on Maximus, but as usual in such cases, a thriving black market has been created. People love their milk products, even if they're not real milk products. Apparently, crime is on the rise in Maximus. An organized crime group that goes by the acronym CFNP, Crime for Fun, Not Profit, is ravaging the planet. There's no such thing as money on Maximus, and everything the people there do is for fun, even if it's work. I ended up spending 6.5 years working the streets, most of which were really just dusty roads. SPNVs are banned here primarily because of the AI component, and I had to do most of my getting around on foot. I've never been a horseback rider, though my daughter, Miss Adventure, sells saddles made in New Mexico in her snobby lobby shops. I did take a stagecoach once when the distance to where I was going was more than I can usually walk in a day. Sure enough, we were robbed by the CFMP gang. In the end, all they stole from us was information. They had forgotten to bring saddlebags with them and therefore were unable to take anything of substance. Maximus proved to be a dead end, and I set my sights on the next star system. It turned out to be Theta Bootis. It's about 47 light years from Earth. This time I was on the Syrian space freighter Why Doesn't Taco Rhyme with Waco, commanded by the Estimable Captain Penelope Panoply. She was a little perfunctory in her mannerisms, but what else is new? During the voyage, I read up on the Theta Bootis system. It had a fascinating backstory. Seems like at one point there was only one giant world circling Theta Bootis. Everyone was pretty much satisfied with the situation, but over the millennia, a cry for diversity swept across the land masses. At some juncture, it was decided by mass consensus that it wasn't fair or equitable that only one planet should enjoy the pleasure of revolving around Theta Bootis. So it was decided to blow a singularity into a multiplicity, and thus one giant world became 46 smaller worlds. A lot of people died in the process, but as one Thetan wit put it, you got to break a few eggs if you want to make an omelet. The 46 inhabited worlds turned out to be a diverse combination of small planets, planetoids, and moons, none of which were powerful enough to dominate the other. All of them enjoyed rather mild climates, though admittedly the closer ones to Theta Bootis were warmer on average, and the furthest ones were a slight bit colder. Chapter 6, Jaundiced Eye. The Why Doesn't Taco Rhyme with Waco wasn't scheduled to make a stop in the Theta Bootis system, but luckily for me, it was passing close enough to the outer edge of the system to make it possible for me to utilize my SPNV, which was legal in the Theta Bootis system, to transport myself to the system's furthermost world, which was known as For Utopia. There I was greeted by Mark, aka Mark, president of the Theta Bootis Dairy Commission, and his lovely wife, Tammy, i.e. Tammy, who was an independent dairy producer as well as an officer with the TBBA ILI, Theta Bootis Brigade Against Intolerance for Lactose Intolerant Individuals. I have no idea what the plus sign signified. It was a plus on the thing. As Tammy, i.e. Tammy, later said to me, if we don't fight lactose intolerance, if we don't fight lactose intolerance, who will? We shook hands and I said, thanks for meeting me here. Not only were they there to greet me, they also planned to accompany me as I inspected the milk crisis as it was playing out in the Theta Bootis system. The Theta Bootis system had a variety, it is the spice of life after all, of governmental administrative structures. In the case of Far Utopia, it was a benevolent dictatorship. And the benevolent dictator was none other than Frick Fontaine, who, as it turned out, was the younger brother of Fondue Fontaine, captain of the LA is Burning, which took me from Earth to Centauri. I asked him very bluntly, how did you become a benevolent dictator? By working under my sister. I was her sub-lieutenant for many years, and I learned very intimately what a tyrannical dictator was, and I swore that if I ever got the chance to own my own planetoid, I would be the exact opposite of her style of leadership. Has it turned out that way? Another blunt question from yours truly. It's not for me to say. You'll have to ask my subjects. Frick almost sounded humble. I returned to the subject of his sister. Is it true that only Syrian women can be space freighter captains? Frick took a puff from his pipe. More on pipe tobacco later. And replied, yes, and even though I disagree with the policy, I can understand it. Syrian women are the toughest, most uncompromising individuals in our part of the galaxy. Wonder why that is. I had my theory, of course, but I wanted to hear Frick what Frick thought. Frick didn't hesitate. The myth is that they're hybrids, a combination of humans and Syrian DNA. The Spartan myth. Frick opened his eyes a little wider. Sounds like you've heard it yourself. I didn't want to say it first. It's important that I present myself as an objective observer. Repeating old wives' tales might harm that image, but I have to say it's one myth with a ring of truth to it, I replied. We ended up spending about 9 months investigating the dairy situation on Far Utopia. On most of the Theta Buddhist worlds, we would spend at least a year or more doing our investigations, but not on Far Utopia because the dairy business was not the main business of the planetoid. I found out early on that cultivating and selling pipe tobacco was the primary source of revenue for the benevolent dictatorship.